Hey friends, and welcome back to week 2 of the Pantry Challenge. I am so excited to get going on this week. It's so funny, I was actually in the middle of my work day when the power went out. So we don't have any power right now, but I need to get my meat marinating for dinner. So what better time to use than to marinate my meat, get our sauces going for all of that. And then when the power's back on, I'll get back to work. But figured it was a perfect break, so we might as well use it. For breakfast today, I just had some banana oat pancakes. I am having the soup that we made together yesterday, that like vegetable sausage soup for lunch as soon as power comes back on so I can heat that up. And then for dinner, we are gonna do kind of peanut beef skewers. So I wanna get going on getting this marinating. Now my meat is still a little bit frozen, but I figured we can finish that. We can put it in the marinade. It'll be great. So we need to get going on our marinade. First thing we need, so my house is clearly pretty cold. I can definitely start a fire. I just haven't gotten there quite yet. So the first thing that we need is a 1/4 cup of coconut milk. And my coconut milk was so dang cold, I couldn't get it out of the can. So I went ahead and poured it into this. So let's get our ingredients in for our marinade, and then we will get going on our peanut sauce as well while we already have the ingredients out. All right, so first thing we need for our marinade is a 1/4 cup of coconut milk. And like I said, mine was very cold, so there is some chunks in here, but that's fine. It's a little bit more, but that's gonna be fine. And we'll need the rest of this coconut milk for our sauce, our peanut sauce. Next, we need 1 tablespoon of curry powder. A little more. Perfect. Then we need 1 teaspoon of sugar, just white sugar. We need 2 teaspoons of red curry paste. This is my favorite curry paste, but you can use whatever kind you like. There's 1 teaspoon, 2 teaspoons. We need 1 teaspoon of just salt. My teaspoon is dirty, so I'm gonna use my 1/2 teaspoon. So 2 of those. And then finally, a 1/2 teaspoon, if I can get this open, of baking soda. And mine has some chunks, so my hands are clean. I'm just gonna put it in my hand, break it up, and then we'll put that in. Okay, that is our marinade. It is literally that easy. So let's go ahead and give that a stir. I'm gonna wash this off as well. And you wanna use a little over 1 pound of meat. And I still have some chunks in my coconut milk, but it's cold, so that's just gonna have to be. It's no problem. This smells really, really good. I've never made this recipe before. I can link it down below. I'm super excited about it. We wanted just kind of a nice, lighter dinner. It was healthier, but still, you know, really flavorful. So I felt like this would be perfect. Okay, that looks good. It smells so dang good. I'm gonna set that off to the side. Now let's get going on our peanut sauce. Alrighty, so for our peanut sauce, similar ingredients. We're gonna use 2/3 of a cup of coconut milk. And again, I'll heat this up a little bit before so we get rid of some of those chunks. Perfect. We need 1/3 of a cup of peanut butter. I should have sprayed my spoon. Okay, we'll call that good. Can always add more if the flavor feels off. We need 1.5 tablespoons of white sugar. So there's 1. And a half. We need 1/2 teaspoon of salt. I need 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. 1 tablespoon of red curry paste. That won't fit. We'll do tablespoons instead. Perfect. We need 1 teaspoon of dark soy sauce. I only have regular. I know the flavors are different, but it's okay. I'm gonna give this a mix and we're gonna add about 1/3 cup or so of water to loosen it if needed. We don't want it too thick since this is kind of our dipping sauce and drizzling sauce. But I think I'm gonna probably just let this sit as is, and then right before we serve it, when I see kind of how it's all coming together, I will put water in it to get it the right thickness. Smells so, so good. All right. Grab a spoon. That's phenomenal. That is perfect. We're gonna leave it just as is. All right, that was so easy. We are done with the marinade, and we are done with the peanut sauce. I am just waiting on the steak to defrost a little bit more because I want to get it into the marinade. I want to chunk it up just a little bit, so just do, some cubes. That way it works for the more like kebab type feel. So I'm gonna let that defrost a little bit. Once I get it chunked up, I will add it to this marinade, and then I will bring you along for the cooking process. Getting this meal pulled together couldn't have been any easier. So all I did was just washed or rinsed a cup of rice, and you can tell by my jacket I had been in town and been out with the animals, so I didn't have a lot of time to pull this together, which is awesome because it shows just how easy it was. So I do equal parts rice to equal parts water and put that in the rice cooker. Then this meat had been marinating for probably about 4 or so hours. Because I didn't have that long to let this marinate, I chose a higher quality cut of elk. If you're using a lower quality or a less tender cut of meat, make sure that you let this marinate at least overnight. That baking soda is kind of acting as the tenderizer inside of the marinade, so it makes everything really tender, but you want to make sure that it has time to do its job. So you can see here, once I got them all loaded onto the pan, I went ahead and just let them sit for a minute, and then once I felt like it was ready, I just flipped them over. We got some really nice grill marks, and I will say, if you don't have a cast iron grill pan, that is definitely something to invest in. They are the absolute best and just make the best quality meat. Then while I was letting some of the bigger pieces finish cooking, I went ahead and just laid some zucchini down on that same pan. We had some of the leftover brown bits and some of that marinade flavor on the pan, so I just let the zucchini cook in that. And then I just stick the thermometer in each piece of meat to ensure we have the correct doneness that we want. Then I just let my zucchini get some grill marks on it. This was previously frozen from the garden, so we just kind of grilled it up. I went ahead and fluffed the rice, and then it was time to make our bowls. It was really that simple come cooking and preparation time. So for putting this together, I just stuck some rice in a bowl, then I topped it with our meat and our zucchinis. Then I just drizzled it with some of that peanut sauce along with some of our fresh cilantro, and that was it. Sam topped his bowl off with some sriracha to add a little bit of spice. The peanut dressing has absolutely no spice to it, so I think it'd be perfect for kids or people that don't like spice, and then you can go ahead and add some sriracha for some of that extra flavor. Good morning, friend. It is the next morning and we are getting going with breakfast. So for breakfast today, I had some chocolate zucchini muffins that we had put in the freezer, and I pulled them out yesterday, 2 days ago. I don't know, time is all just kind of going together. I pulled them out the other day, and so I'm gonna be having a chocolate zucchini muffin for breakfast. And what I like to do is add some peanut butter on top of it. So good. So I'm gonna have that, and then for lunch I'll be having our veggie soup, that one that we made in week 1 together, with the kale and the carrots and the beans and the sausage and tomatoes and all that yummy stuff. I still have a lot of that. I've been eating it for lunch literally every single day. It's one of those things I just never get tired of it. So I'm gonna continue on with that soup for lunch, and dinner, you're just gonna have to stay tuned for dinner. I have no idea what we're gonna have. We're gonna make something work. I don't know what that's gonna be yet, but as soon as I am in the kitchen getting going for dinner, I will be bringing you along with me, so stay tuned. All right, friends, I figured out what we're gonna make for dinner. We are going to have breakfast for dinner. This is one of our favorites, and I honestly just forget about it. So for dinner, we're gonna make pancakes, and then I have some frozen berries that have been in the freezer for way too long, so I'm gonna make kind of a berry compote or just like a little berry, not quite syrup, I don't know, topping for our pancakes. And then I'm also gonna do scrambled eggs and bacon. So let's go ahead and get started. I think I'm gonna start on the berries, just because those will take a little bit of time to cook down, and then we'll start working on our pancake batter. Okay, so like I said, these are pretty freezer burnt. They've been in the freezer for way too long, but that is fine. We're gonna get them used up. So I'm just gonna put this on a lower heat, and we're gonna just put a lid on it and start getting these defrosting. So I'm gonna get going on our pancake batter, and I need a knife. I've never made them in a blender before, but I wanted to give it a try because I was thinking how nice would that be if it was so easy to pour. So, oops. To this blender, I'm just going to do 1 1/4 cups of whatever kind of flour you want. I'm using the Bob's Red Mill gluten-free flour. If you've been here for a while, you know where I can switch out gluten-free things easily, I do. And then where I can't, I don't. I just try to limit my gluten intakes. Sometimes it gives me a bad belly. So there's that. Next, I need 2 tablespoons of white sugar. One, 2. We need 2 teaspoons of baking powder. That's all of my dry ingredients. Next, I'm gonna add in 2 tablespoons of almost fully melted butter and 1 cup of milk. This is a 1/2 cup. Okay, I'm gonna stop there and give this a mix. Turn it on. We're gonna have to scrape, which I fully anticipated, especially starting with all of that flour. Probably should have started with the wet ingredients first in the blender. It's okay, we're learning. That's kind of the fun of this. Clean that off. And then I'm gonna add in my 1 egg just while I have it stopped. 1 egg and a splash of vanilla. I like my pancakes kind of vanilla-y. Okay. Whoops. Let's wash that. Okay, let's give that a try. So there's our batter. I would say it's on the runnier side. Just give it a stir. But I also think I always make my pancake batter way too thick. I think that's one of my downfalls in pancake cooking. So I'm just gonna trust the process, and I'm gonna leave it like that. And then I'm thinking, how easy is that to just pour pancakes? I don't know, I'll bring you along. All right, next I'm gonna get our bacon baking. This is our last bacon that we have from the grocery store that we had purchased before the hogs were slaughtered. So I try to always use up the oldest things first. I find that's kind of the only way if you're gonna have a lot of meat. and things, you have to kind of keep a good inventory running. And Sam used to work in supply chain, so he follows a very strict first in, first out method in this household. So I try to follow that, and I do my best when it comes to food, but that's how we keep down on food waste. So while I wish this was the pork from our pigs, we will get to it soon enough. I'm going to appreciate the pork that this pig is providing us, and we're going to eat that instead. So let me just scoot these guys around so everyone can fit. This is thick cut bacon. That is my absolute favorite. And I just have the oven going at 400 degrees. These are way thinner, these pieces are, so I'm okay with them overlapping a little bit. Yes, so the oven is at 400 degrees, so I'm gonna pop these in the oven and you can just cook them until they are however you like them. So meanwhile, back at our berries, everything is defrosted and there's a good amount of sauce in here. So I want this to be kind of sweet and tangy. So I'm gonna add just a tiny bit of lemon juice. These are already pretty tart. So I'd say that's probably like 1/4 teaspoon. And then I'm gonna do, I don't know, a little bit of sugar. We'll start with that. We can always add more. And I'm just gonna let this keep boiling for a little while until we get it right to where we want it to be. Okay, friend, so I've just been letting this boil down and this is exactly how I want it. I want it kind of like a syrup jelly combo. So I'm gonna leave it just like this. So there is our fruit to go on top of our pancakes. Now I'm gonna get going on our pancakes, and I'm trying to decide if I want to scramble eggs or just fry them. TBD. All right, I decided we needed a vegetable in our lives with this dinner, so I'm gonna make us a quick scramble, but I'm gonna put some veggies in it. So I just have some frozen, what are these? I almost said mangoes. Mushrooms, and some frozen garden jalapenos, and I'm just gonna cut up small. Perfect, and then I'm gonna put those in with our eggs. It's not a lot of vegetables, but it's something, right? Better than nothing. All right, then we're gonna crack in our eggs. Our chickens have definitely slowed down production, but I've got, one girl that's holding strong. She's a rock star. She's delivering us eggs every single day. Oh no, that was dumb. Okay, let me clean this up. That was, I don't even know what happened there. Luckily, Arrow loves eggs, so I'll give him that egg. Okay, let's try that again, shall we? I'll be a little carefuler. I've never had that happen. All right, let's whip these together. That got a little exciting, didn't it? Not a lot of vegetables, but it's something. I'm gonna add just a pinch of salt, a little bit of milk, and then we'll get these cooked after our pancakes come off. All right, let's pull our bacon out. And then I just transfer my bacon onto paper towels to help soak up the grease. And then this grease, what I do with it is I put some oats in it, and then I give it to my chickens. You can definitely keep it and cook with it if you want. Just like, especially in these cold months, love to give it to my chickens. All right, let's get going on our pancakes. This is just some avocado oil. I'm gonna bring that up to a heat. All right, friends, this is hot. Here goes nothing with our pancakes. We'll do 2. These pancakes turned out so, so good. The only two things I would change is I would double the recipe next time. We only got about 5 pancakes this size, and I figure if I'm going through the work, I might as well make a bunch so we can freeze them. And I would also start with the wet ingredients first in the blender and then put the dry on top. I think that would help with a lot of the clumping and make sure that we don't have any flour down at the bottom of the blender. But other than that, this meal was so yummy. Here's a final look. Good morning, friend. I'm just pouring myself a little bit more coffee to get this day going. I've been working for a little bit now, but I got a little hungry, so decided I was going to stop for some breakfast. And based off of what we had for dinner last night, this couldn't be any easier. This was all of the leftovers we have, so 2 pieces of bacon, 1 pancake, and a little bit of that berry topping. That berry topping was so good. If you're making blueberries or pancakes and you have berries in your freezer that you need to get out, please, please, please go make this. I also have frozen peaches, and I was thinking a little bit later from now, maybe we'll do pancakes or waffles again and do kind of a peach topping. So I'm gonna warm this up for my breakfast. I have more of that vegetable soup that I will be having for lunch, and then dinner, I don't know. I always hit this time during the mornings where I'm like, what do I want to lay out? Here's my idea. I have a good amount of this peanut sauce left over from our sauté skewers, and I'm thinking I could make a really yummy stir fry with, I have some like rice noodles, I have vegetables, we have steak. I'm thinking we can make a really yummy stir fry. All right, I'm gonna go get my breakfast warmed up, enjoy my coffee, and I will catch you next time I'm in the kitchen. So we are, in fact, going to make a rice noodle stir fry with the leftover steak and the leftover peanut sauce. So here I'm just starting up with cutting our veggies. I want the veggies to be pretty big so that we have some nice texture in the pasta. So I'm starting with green beans. These are green beans that we harvested together in my 2023 garden. I'm also putting in some red onion. I just had a little bit left in the fridge that I wanted to use up. Otherwise, I would have normally used a yellow onion, but I wanted to make sure this wasn't going to waste. Then I also put in a couple garden carrots. Now I did not peel these because they're from the garden, and I just keep mine in wood chips, so they're staying really, really fresh. There's no need to peel them, so I'm just cutting those into bite-sized pieces. And then I also had a can of water chestnuts in my pantry that I decided to open up and just slice these into little pieces as well and add them into the stir fry. If you haven't had water chestnuts in a stir fry, I would definitely recommend it. It adds a nice kind of crunch and fun texture into the stir fry. Then once I got all of my vegetables cut up and into the bowl, I'm going to add in some jalapenos. Again, these jalapenos are from the garden. I like to just cut them up into little cubes or slices and put them in a Ziploc bag to freeze. That way they're always easily accessible. I can put them in eggs, stir fries, anything that I want. They are ready to go. Let that heat up for just a minute. I'm gonna just throw all of our veggies in our pan, get these cooking down a little bit, then we'll add in our meat, we'll throw in our pasta and our sauces, and we'll be good to go. I'm gonna just salt these a little bit, and a little pepper as well. Okay, this is starting to brown nicely. I want these to cook down just a little bit more, so I'm gonna add some teriyaki sauce onto them just so they have a little bit of liquid. And I think this will help with some sauce. We'll stir that in and then get our water boiling for our noodles. All right, let's get our noodles going. And I honestly don't know how much these expand. I don't really know how many to cook. I guess we'll just do them all. All right, while our noodles cook, back over here, I'm gonna throw in our leftover steak from the other night that I just cubed up. We'll let that warm up for just a minute. And I'm gonna dump our peanut sauce in as well. This is left over from the other night too. I'm gonna rinse this out with just a little bit of water. Give that a mix, and then we'll add our noodles in. So at this point, Sam had just gotten home and was helping me finish off dinner. So he was just going ahead and adding our rice noodles into our peanut sauce and vegetables and giving that a nice mix around with the tongs. And we just plated it up, put a little bit of cilantro on top, and just like that, we were done. Another really yummy meal, and we made sure nothing went to waste. Hey friends, today was the day of the leftovers. I literally had leftovers for breakfast and for lunch. And today for dinner, we are getting going on a new meal. So I had pureed some pumpkin from our garden, and that has just been in the freezer. I have a couple bags of it, and actually I have more pumpkin than I need to puree and get into the freezer. So I wanted to make a little bit of room, test out this recipe, see if we like it. That way we know if we want pumpkin puree frozen or not. So what I'm gonna make is just a super simple sausage and pumpkin pasta. We're gonna use the sausage from the hogs that we just recently processed. And we're gonna make this really, really simple, pretty quick. I'm excited for it. I've been craving this and I've never even had it before. So fingers crossed it's good. I feel like there's a lot riding on it. So let's go ahead and get this super simple dinner made. So probably my favorite part beyond this meal tasting good is that it required very few dishes. So all I'm doing here is just heating up a pan, and then I'm going to go ahead and cut up my onion. This is just one small yellow onion. You want to just dice it into some smaller pieces. But at that same time, I could smell my pan was starting to get hot. So I jumped back over and started to put the sausage into the pan. And then while that was finishing heating up, I decided to finish chopping all of our onions. Perfect. And then I am going to get a couple cloves of garlic prepped as well. Let's do 2. And I'm trying to keep dishes very minimal tonight, so I think I'm going to just chop this instead of using that garlic press that I usually use. All right, this actually smells so good. We haven't had any of the ground sausage yet, so I'm excited to try it. So once our sausage is fully browned, I'm going to go ahead and remove it from the pan and just put it on a paper towel that is on top of a plate. This allows me to get some of that excess grease off of it. Because we're making a really yummy pumpkin garden type pasta, I want to make sure that it's not super greasy. So that's why I'm just removing this onto a paper towel. Then with that little bit of grease that is left over, I'm going to go ahead and start frying up my onions. And once those turn brown, I'm going to add in my garlic and also a freeze-dried sage leaf that we have from our 2023 garden. I just wanted to make sure we were bringing out as much of the flavor as possible, so I'm just toasting those up for a minute. Then after that has cooked and I can smell the garlic, I just went ahead and added about a cup or so of chicken stock into this. That not only helped us make sure that we didn't burn the garlic, but it's also going to be the liquid base that we put into the pasta. So I let that boil for just a minute while it all comes together, and then at that point I added in my pumpkin puree. This was 2 cups of pumpkin puree, and when I packaged these up, I actually pre-labeled them so I know exactly how much pumpkin is in each of the bags. So it makes it really easy for cooking things like this because I already know how much each bag is. Then I go ahead and stir that pumpkin puree into the sauce and just make sure that it is nice and combined. And at that point, I want to get going on my pasta. So you can see here, my water is boiling, so I'm just going to add in some dried pasta. You can do whatever shape you want. I wanted to use this shape because it has a lot of ridges for the sauce to hold onto, which I thought would be really good for this type of pasta. So here I'm just adding in a little bit of nutmeg, giving that a good stir, and then I add in some half and half as well. If you want, you can throw some cream cheese into this. I like to try to keep mine a little bit lighter, so I omitted the cream cheese, but you could add in about a half a block of cream cheese at this point if you would like to do that as well. Then once it became nice and mixed, I added our sausage back in, gave that a nice stir, and then at that point we were ready to add in the pasta. So rather than draining my pasta, I went ahead and added it in spoon by spoon because I wanted some of that pasta water to incorporate into the sauce in order to help thin it out, which it actually did. I was a little bit worried because the sauce at this point was a little bit too thick for what I wanted, so I just added the undrained noodles in. Obviously drained them a little bit as I was passing them from the pot to the pan, but I didn't fully drain them. Then I just mixed them into the sauce, which did help kind of loosen it up and make it a little bit thinner. Then at that point, we were ready to serve. So I just topped this with some freeze-dried parsley from our garden that I just crumbled up in my hands. And then I also put some shredded Parmesan cheese on top. And just like that, we were done. Next time I would add in some red pepper flakes as well, just to add a little bit of spice. But if you don't like spicy, definitely just leave that out. Hey friends, and welcome back. It is Sunday. We are in our sweatpants because it has not gotten out of the negative temperatures in a couple days. So we are having a total lazy day. We're going to turn on some football games. So we thought it would be fun to make some yummy appetizer type snacks for our lunch/dinner for today. So we're going to whip out Sam's toasted ravioli. If you were here on our freezer tour, you would have seen that these were his request in there. We also have some jalapeno poppers that we made out of the jalapenos from the garden. So I'm going to wrap these with some of the bacon that we got from our pigs this year. And then we're going to make just a little dish of nachos as well with some salsa, tomatoes, cheese, jalapenos, maybe some avocado and whatever else we can find in there. So let's get going on our Sunday snacks. In total, this probably took about 10 minutes for us to get ready. It was so easy. Now, obviously, these toasted raviolis are pre-made from the grocery store, so I just went ahead and preheated the oven to 425 degrees and just laid them out on a cookie sheet with some parchment paper because we were going for easy this day, and parchment paper always makes cleanup a lot easier. So I just lined this tray with the toasted ravioli on half, and then on the other half of the tray, I am going to add in some of my jalapeno poppers. We made these poppers together quite a while ago, and I remade them since, but there is a recipe if you want to check it out. I will link it below. But having these in the freezer really makes life so easy because in a matter of minutes, you can have an appetizer ready to go. So all I did was just take a half a piece of bacon and wrap it around each jalapeno popper. And then we're just going to bake them on 425 degrees with those toasted raviolis. Once the poppers became a little bit more defrosted in the oven, I did put a toothpick inside each just to help hold the bacon on. I don't think that's totally necessary, but it just helps make it a little bit easier for eating. So I popped those into the oven, and now we're going to get going on the nachos. I am very lucky because Sam helps me a lot in the kitchen, especially when he gets home from work. He will help me finish up meals and get them on the table. So with that being in mind, he is a very good cook and he is always our master nacho maker. So I started it out and then he is going to take over because he's much better at this than I am. So all we did was just do a layer of cheese, a layer of chips, and then a layer of beans. And we're going to continue that pattern on like a lasagna until you have as many nachos as you want. So I think Sam did 2 or 3 layers of chips, then cheese, then beans. And then after that part is done, you're going to go ahead and just put these in the oven and let that cheese melt. I put it at 350 degrees for probably about 10 or so minutes, but just keep an eye on it. You just want that cheese melted all the way through. And then while that was baking, I went ahead and cut up some fresh vegetables. To me, that's what makes nachos, is all of the toppings. So we cut up some avocado, tomatoes, cilantro, jalapenos, all sorts of yummy things that we are adding on. So once those came out of the oven, we're just going to add those fresh elements on top. And I also froze some fresh salsa from the garden this summer. So after we had made it and we were full of salsa, I went ahead and just froze it and we defrosted it on this day. I just left it out on the counter for a couple of hours and it worked perfect. It tasted so good. It was just as good as the first day. So I'm definitely going to do that again in the years to come. I will say the leftovers didn't look very pretty though. So you're going to want to defrost it and eat it all in the same day. Then we're finishing these nachos off by adding some pickled jalapenos onto the top. We also made these together, and I make them every single year because we love them on top of just about everything. But here is the final spread. We have the jalapeno poppers, we have the nachos that Sam is just finishing up with some salsa, and we have our toasted ravioli. This was such a good spread, and we just snacked on it all afternoon. All right, friends, just like that, we are done with week 2. This was a really good week, and we did reach the goal of trying some new recipes. We tried that beef saute, those skewers, that was really, really yummy, and then also that peanut pasta noodle dish that we had made up using the leftover peanut sauce from that first night. So some really good recipes. I'm super excited for it. We are starting to run a little bit low on fresh food. We still have pumpkins, potatoes, sweet potatoes, onions, a cabbage, carrots, apples and grapefruits, but other than that, we are pretty much out of fresh food. So we're going to start working on some of those frozen vegetables we have. But I appreciate you guys hanging out with me and joining me for this pantry challenge. I think we still have about 6 weeks to go, so we are just getting into it. If you liked today's video, please consider subscribing if you haven't and giving it a thumbs up, and I will catch you all in the next one. Bye, friend.